The battle had been raging for hours. The Galactic Coalition and the Dominion had been locked in war for years, but this battle was different. It was supposed to be the final push. The Dominion wanted to crush the Coalition, and the Coalition wanted to survive. Lasers burned through space. Warships exploded into fire and debris. Both sides were evenly matched, neither gaining the upper hand. Then, something strange happened. A new ship appeared on the battlefield. It was not part of the Dominion. It was not part of the Coalition. It was something else. The ship was massive, larger than any warship in the battle. Its dark metallic hull reflected the light of distant stars. Its design was strange, unfamiliar. It did not match any known alien technology. Coalition Admiral Tarek stared at his screen in shock. What is that? His crew rushed to scan the unknown vessel. Data appeared on the screen. Then, silence filled the command deck. The results were clear. It was a human warship. Admiral Tarek frowned. Humans? That made no sense. Humans were a minor species, barely noticed by the larger empires of the galaxy. They had no real power, no major fleets, and no advanced weapons. And yet, here was a human warship, a warship bigger than anything they had ever seen. The Coalition fleet was confused. The Dominion fleet was amused. A Dominion captain laughed over the open channel. Is this a joke? A single human ship? Have they lost their minds? His crew joined in the laughter. The Dominion Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. They had fought and crushed powerful enemies. But humans? They were weak, insignificant. This had to be a mistake. Admiral Tarek was not so sure. Something about this ship felt wrong. It had just appeared, without warning, in the middle of a war zone. It was not sending any signals. It was just there, completely silent. One of his officers spoke up. "Sir, should we hail them?" Tarek nodded. "Try to make contact." A message was sent. No reply. Another message. No reply. The human warship did not respond. It did not move. It simply remained still, as if watching. The Dominion commanders grew impatient. Enough of this nonsense. One of them growled. "Destroy it." A Dominion battlecruiser locked onto the human warship. Plasma cannons charged. In seconds, it fired a powerful energy blast. The plasma shot through space, heading straight for the human ship. Then, impact. The explosion lit up the battlefield. Smoke and fire burst from the point of contact. The Dominion ships cheered. The Coalition ships watched in silence. But when the smoke cleared, their cheers died. The human warship was untouched. Not a single scratch, not a single dent. It was as if the attack had never happened. Admiral Tarek felt a chill run down his spine. Impossible. The Dominion fleet hesitated. Their strongest weapons could destroy entire cities. No warship had ever survived a direct hit from a Dominion battlecruiser. And yet, the human warship stood, unaffected. A deep, uneasy silence spread through the battlefield. The Coalition did not know whether to be afraid or amazed. The Dominion, once laughing, was now deadly quiet. For the first time in the war, they were facing something they did not understand. And then the human warship moved. Slowly, silently, like a predator studying its prey. Its weapons powered up. Strange blue lights glowed along its surface. It was waking up. Admiral Tarek's breath caught in his throat. He had seen many battles. He had seen great warships fall. But never before had he felt this feeling. This was not just a warship. This was something else. And the battle had just changed forever. The battlefield had gone silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Every alien in the war zone stared at the human warship, trying to understand what had just happened. A Dominion battlecruiser had fired a full power shot, a blast strong enough to destroy a city. But the human ship had taken the hit like it was nothing. Not a scratch. Not a dent. This was wrong. This was impossible. Admiral Tarek felt his hands tighten into fists. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders, but he had none to give. He had fought in this war for years. He had faced the Dominion countless times. But this was different. Across the battlefield, Dominion commanders were growing restless. The laughter was gone. Their pride had turned into something else. Fear. No ship can have defenses like that. A Dominion captain muttered, "That's not possible." And yet, another replied, staring at the human vessel, "It just happened." The Dominion fleet had always believed itself to be the strongest in the galaxy. They had conquered planets, wiped out civilizations, and crushed anyone who stood in their way. And yet, a single human warship had just ignored their weapons like they were nothing more than a child's toy. One Dominion admiral, a veteran of many wars, finally snapped, "Enough. It's just one ship. If one attack didn't work, then we'll hit it with everything." The order was given. Across the Dominion fleet, warships locked onto the human vessel. Dozens of ships, hundreds of weapons, lasers, missiles, plasma cannons, everything aimed at the silent, unmoving warship. Coalition officers watched in horror. Admiral Tarek felt a cold sweat on his forehead. "They're making a mistake," he whispered. The Dominion fleet opened fire. The darkness of space turned into a storm of light and fire. Explosions rippled across the human ship as waves of energy and missiles struck its hull. The battlefield shook. The sheer force of the attack was enough to vaporize a planet. For several long seconds, the human ship was hidden behind fire and smoke. Then, the smoke cleared, and the human warship was still there, untouched, unbroken. Like before, the attacks had done nothing. The battlefield fell into chaos. What is that thing?" A Dominion officer gasped. "No ship can survive that." Another screamed. Panic spread through the Dominion fleet. Captains shouted over each other, demanding answers. The sensors must be broken. There must be a trick. But no, the ship was real. The power was real. The danger was real. Some Dominion warships hesitated. A few captains, realizing the terrifying truth, turned their ships around. They had never retreated before, but today they ran. The coalition officers could hardly believe their eyes. Admiral Tarek exhaled slowly. "This isn't a warship," he murmured. "This is a nightmare." The human ship had done nothing, yet it had already won half the battle. And then, for the first time, it moved. Not slowly, not cautiously. It vanished. 1 second it was there, the next it was somewhere else. It moved too fast for any ship its size, too fast for any known technology. The Dominion fleet barely had time to react before the human warship attacked. A single blue beam of light fired from its hull. It sliced through space like a knife through paper. A Dominion battlecruiser was hit. It didn't just explode, it disintegrated. The massive warship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, was erased from existence in one shot. Silence. No one spoke, no one breathed. And then the human ship spoke for the first time. A simple message, broadcast to every ship in the war zone. "You fired first. Now we fire back." Admiral Tarek's blood ran cold. The Dominion had made a mistake, and now humanity was going to show the galaxy exactly what that mistake would cost. The Dominion fleet had never known fear. They were conquerors, warriors. For centuries, they had crushed anyone who stood against them. Planets had burned under their rule. Civilizations had fallen before their mighty warships. They believed in strength. They believed in power. But now, for the first time in history, they hesitated. The human warship stood in the middle of the battlefield, untouched, unmoving, like a silent predator watching its prey. The Dominion commanders were furious. How could this happen? How could one ship, just one, defy them like this? "This is impossible," a Dominion admiral roared. "No ship has shields that strong." Yet the truth was right in front of them. Their strongest weapons had failed. Their warships, mighty and feared across the galaxy, were nothing against this thing. And then, one Dominion captain made the first mistake. "This ship is a bluff," he growled. "It cannot be invincible. It must have a weakness." He was desperate to prove that the Dominion was still in control. He refused to believe that a single human warship could make the mighty Dominion fleet look weak. So he ordered his ship forward. The Dominator, a massive Dominion battleship, one of the strongest war machines in the fleet, surged ahead. Its weapons glowed with deadly energy, its cannons aimed directly at the human warship. The Dominion fleet watched. The Coalition fleet watched. Everyone held their breath. Admiral Tarek, sitting in his command chair aboard his Coalition warship, whispered, "Don't do it." But the Dominion did not listen. The Dominator opened fire. Not just one shot, not just one weapon. Everything. Missiles, lasers, plasma beams, railguns, every weapon on the Dominator fired at once. A full-power attack. The kind of attack that could destroy an entire planet. The battlefield lit up like a star-going supernova. The human warship was engulfed in fire and smoke. The explosion was so bright that some crews had to shield their eyes. For a moment, the Dominion fleet cheered. For a moment, they believed they had won. But then the fire cleared, and the human warship was still there. Still untouched. Not a single mark on its hull. Not a single dent. The cheers died. The Dominion fleet fell silent once more. And then the human warship moved. Not slowly, not cautiously. It vanished in a blur of motion. One moment, it was in front of the Dominator. The next, it was above it, moving faster than any ship its size should ever move. Faster than what should even be possible. Before the Dominion fleet could react, the human warship fired one shot. Just one. A single blue energy beam, silent and precise. It struck the Dominator. And the mighty Dominion battleship ceased to exist. It did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply vanished. 1 second it was there. The next, it was gone. The battlefield froze. The Coalition fleet, the Dominion fleet, no one could believe what they had just seen. Admiral Tarek's mouth went dry. What was that? The Dominion fleet had always believed in power. They had always believed they were the strongest force in the galaxy. Now, for the first time, they were afraid. The human warship spoke again. "Your mistake was thinking we are weak." Panic spread through the Dominion ranks. Some ships powered down their weapons. Others turned to flee. The great Dominion fleet, once so confident, now looked like prey trying to escape a hunter. Admiral Tarek exhaled slowly. The humans had not just entered this war. They had changed everything. And this was only the beginning. The Dominion fleet had never known fear. Until now. The mighty Dominator, one of their strongest warships, had been erased from existence. Not destroyed. Not broken. Erased. One shot. One single shot from the human warship had wiped it out. For the first time in Dominion history, no one knew what to do. The battlefield was silent. No one fired. No one moved. Every Dominion captain stared at their screens in shock, trying to understand how this was possible. Their strongest weapons had done nothing. Their best warship had been deleted from space. This was not a battle anymore. This was a nightmare. Across the battlefield, fear began to spread. Whispers filled the Dominion fleet. What kind of weapon was that? No ship should be able to do this. This isn't war. This is something else. Some captains refused to accept it. It's just one ship, they argued. We can still destroy it. But their crews were not so sure. Was it really just a ship, or was it something worse? Even the Coalition fleet, the supposed allies of humanity, felt uneasy. Admiral Tarek sat frozen in his command chair, watching the human warship on his screen. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It simply waited. It was controlling the battlefield without even trying. His officers whispered to each other. "Sir, what do we do?" Tarek didn't know. No one knew. And then, a Dominion warship turned around. It didn't attack. It didn't send a message. It simply turned and ran. A Dominion dreadnought, a ship that had conquered entire planets, was retreating. The crew on Tarek's ship gasped. They're running. Another Dominion warship turned, then another, and another. Panic was spreading. The Dominion had ruled by fear for centuries. Now, they were the ones who were afraid. Cowards. One Dominion admiral roared over the open channel. Stand and fight. No one listened, because they all knew the truth. Fighting was useless. This wasn't a warship. This wasn't a battle. This was a massacre waiting to happen. And then, the human warship moved. 1 second it was still. The next, it was right in the middle of the Dominion fleet. No, one Dominion captain whispered. No, no, no. A blue glow spread across the human ship. Its weapons powered up. The Dominion fleet broke. Some fired their weapons, desperate and hopeless. Nothing happened. Their shots simply vanished before reaching the human ship. Some tried to escape. The human ship was faster. One more blue beam fired. Another Dominion warship disappeared. Gone. Panic turned into full-scale chaos. Every Dominion ship that could move fled. Some crashed into each other in their hurry to escape. Others fired blindly, hoping for a miracle. There were no miracles today. The human warship did not chase them. It did not fire again. It just waited, watching, as if it had already decided that the Dominion was no longer worth its time. On the Coalition flagship, Admiral Tarek exhaled shakily. He had never seen anything like this. One ship, just one ship, had turned the most feared fleet in the galaxy into running cowards. A message flashed on his screen. It came from the human warship. Your war is over. We have decided. Tarek swallowed hard. Who were these humans? What had they become? And more importantly, what would they do next? The Dominion fleet was in chaos. Warships burned. Signals overlapped. Commands were shouted, but no one listened. The great and powerful Dominion, once the terror of the galaxy, was now running. But the humans were not finished. The human warship remained still for a moment, watching the Dominion scatter like frightened animals. Then it moved. Fast. Too fast for something its size. 1 second, it was in the center of the battlefield. The next, it was behind a Dominion battlecruiser. A single beam of blue light shot forward. The battlecruiser ceased to exist. Not broken. Not damaged. Erased. On Admiral Tarek's flagship, his crew watched in stunned silence. They aren't stopping, one officer whispered. Tarek clenched his jaw. No, they weren't. The Dominion had started this war. The humans were going to finish it. Across the battlefield, Dominion warships tried to flee. It didn't matter. The human warship was faster. A dreadnought powered up its warp engines, trying to escape. The human ship appeared in front of it. One shot. The dreadnought was gone. A squadron of Dominion frigates attempted to maneuver around the battlefield, hoping to evade detection. The human warship vanished, then reappeared inside their formation. 3 shots. 3 ships erased. The Dominion's strongest weapons had failed. Their ships were failing. Now, their morale failed. Stop. We surrender. One Dominion captain screamed over the open channel. Please, we surrender. The human ship did not respond. It simply continued. There was no hesitation, no pause, no mercy. For the first time, the Dominion understood. This was not just a war. This was retribution. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were not here to claim victory. They were here to punish. And the punishment was total. Tarek's hands trembled as he watched. The Dominion had always been the enemy, but this was something else. Something cold. Something terrifying. They're not stopping, one of his officers whispered. They're going to destroy everything. Tarek took a slow breath. "Humans," he muttered, "what have you become?" The human ship fired again. Another Dominion warship vanished. And another. And another. The great Dominion fleet, feared across the galaxy, was no more. Now, only wreckage remained. And in the center of it all, the human warship stood alone. Unscathed. Unstoppable. Unforgiving. Tarek's screen flickered. A message appeared. "War is over. Do not test us again." Then, the human warship vanished. No flash. No sound. One moment it was there. The next, it was gone, leaving behind a silent battlefield. A battlefield that would never be the same again. Because today, the galaxy had seen the fury of humanity, and no one would ever forget. The battle was over. The mighty Dominion fleet, once feared across the stars, was gone. Some ships had been destroyed. Some had escaped, broken and terrified. But no one doubted the truth anymore. The humans had won, and they had won in a way no one had ever seen before. The battlefield was silent. Burning wreckage floated through space. Broken ships drifted without power. The few surviving Dominion warships ran as fast as their engines allowed, desperate to escape. But where could they run? The human warship had proven it was unstoppable. On his flagship, Admiral Tarek watched the empty void where the human warship had been. His hands were still shaking. His crew was silent, waiting for him to speak. "What? What do we do now?" One officer whispered. No one had an answer. Because everything had changed. For years, the Dominion had been the supreme power in the galaxy. They had conquered, crushed, and ruled without fear. No one had ever been strong enough to stop them. Until now. Now, the great Dominion fleet was gone, wiped out in a single battle. And the ones who had done it, the humans, had simply disappeared. No celebration, no demands. Just a single message. "War is over. Do not test us again." Tarek's officers whispered among themselves. "Do you think they're watching us? They could destroy us all if they wanted. They're monsters." Tarek snapped his head up at that last comment. His voice was cold. "No." The crew fell silent. Tarek took a deep breath. "They're not monsters." He looked back at the screen, where the last remains of the Dominion fleet were vanishing into the void. "There's something much worse," he said softly. "They're angry." The humans had not come to conquer. They had not come to negotiate. They had come to end the war. And they had done it without mercy. Tarek knew what this meant. The galaxy was never going to be the same again. The Dominion had ruled with fear. But now, they were the ones who feared. Tarek's thoughts raced. What would the humans do next? Would they return? Would they destroy the Dominion completely? Or worse, would they do nothing at all? Because somehow, that was even scarier. If the humans simply left, it meant they did not see the Dominion as a threat. It meant they did not care about ruling. It meant they were beyond war. One of Tarek's officers hesitated. "Sir, what do we tell the council?" Tarek didn't answer right away. He watched the battlefield, the floating wreckage, the last sparks of fire flickering in the void. Then he turned to his crew. His voice was quiet but firm. "We tell them the truth. The war was over. But something far greater had just begun. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread fast. The Dominion's defeat was impossible to hide. Their once mighty warships were gone. Their fleets scattered. Their leaders silent. The unthinkable had happened. The Dominion had lost. And the cause? One human warship. Every empire, every kingdom, every civilization in the galaxy heard the same story. And they all asked the same question. What happens now? For centuries, everyone had feared the Dominion. Now, they feared something else. The humans. And yet, the humans had not claimed victory. They had not demanded surrender. They had just left. This was not normal. This was not how war worked. But humans had never followed the rules. Now, every ruler, every admiral, every government in the galaxy had a choice to make. Would they welcome humanity, or would they risk becoming their next target? Because today, the galaxy had learned a lesson, one that would never be forgotten. Do not test the humans. Do not make them angry, because if you do, there will be no mercy. And so, the war had ended, but the future had been changed forever. The war was over, but its echo traveled across the stars. Every species, every government, every leader in the galaxy heard the same story. One human warship. One ship had destroyed the most feared fleet in the universe. One ship had turned Dominion warlords into cowards. One ship had forced the galaxy to rethink everything. And then, it disappeared. No demands, no declarations, no celebration. Just silence. The galaxy had never seen anything like this before. Wars ended with treaties, negotiations, or surrender. But this was different. This was a warning. The Dominion's fall. On the Dominion homeworld, the rulers sat in silence. Once they had commanded fleets. Now they commanded nothing. Their best ships were gone. Their admirals were dead. Their empire, built on war, was falling apart. And worst of all, they didn't know what to do. Because no one had ever beaten them like this. Not in battle. Not in history. The humans had not just won. They had broken the Dominion. Now, old enemies of the Dominion rose up. Planets once ruled by fear rebelled. Armies that once served the Dominion turned against them. The mighty empire was crumbling. Not because of an invasion, not because of diplomacy, but because the humans had shown the galaxy the truth. The Dominion was not invincible, and once that truth was known, their empire was finished. The other civilizations, across the galaxy, rulers gathered in secret meetings. "What do we do?" they whispered. For centuries, they had feared the Dominion, but now they feared something else. The humans. No one knew how strong humanity really was. No one knew how many ships they had. But one thing was certain. If even a single human warship could do this, then humanity was a force beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Some leaders wanted to form alliances. If we stand together, they said, we can survive. Others wanted to hide. We must avoid the humans at all costs. And a few, the foolish ones, still believed they could fight. It was only one ship, they argued. The humans are not gods. But no one believed them. Because deep down, everyone knew the truth. The humans had been holding back. If they had wanted, they could have destroyed the Dominion completely. But they didn't. Why? That was the most terrifying question of all. Because it meant the humans did not see them as a real threat. The legend of the human warship. Stories spread. Some called the human warship a ghost, appearing and disappearing at will. Some believed it was not a ship, but a weapon of the gods. Others whispered that humans were not like other species, that they had something different inside them, something that made them unstoppable. And so the legend grew. Even those who had never seen the battle feared the name of humanity, because the lesson was clear. Do not anger the humans. Do not make them see you as an enemy, because if you do, you will not survive. A future changed forever. On his flagship, Admiral Tarek stood at the viewing deck, looking at the stars. The war was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. He thought about the humans, their silent power, their terrifying speed, their merciless precision. And he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The Dominion had fallen, but something far greater had risen. And now, the galaxy had a new question. Not who will rule, but will the humans ever come back? Because if they did, the galaxy would never forget, and they would never be ready.